Hi, I'm Nadine Tung from Boston, and I'd also like to start by thanking Evelyn and Larry and pointing out two very unique things about BCRF, I feel, as a researcher. One of them is the amazing collaborations that it has opened up for me. Being in Boston, the research I'm going to talk to you about is done in collaboration with several other BCRF grantees from the Dana-Farber and Beth Israel and Harvard Medical School. And I really became much closer with these collaborators through BCRF, so that's been wonderful. And the other very unique thing that BCRF allows you to do as a researcher is that if you start a project and it starts in one direction, but the science or the knowledge is taking you another direction, Larry, Evelyn, they would say, go in that direction. And most funding that you get from other organizations wants you to do exactly what you had set out initially without the intellectual freedom to go in the direction that you should be going. So I wanted to point out those two very unique things about BCRF. My particular research through BCRF has to do with hereditary breast cancers. The breast cancers that develop in women often who have a strong family history. And many of you may be familiar with the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes, BRCA1 and BRCA2. These are two genes that when they're not working, and if they're inherited either through the mother or the father, a woman has a very high chance of developing breast cancer or ovarian cancer. And we're very interested in studying these cancers, even though they only explain about 5% of breast cancer and about 12% of breast cancer in Jewish women. We feel like there are clues to understanding all of breast cancer as well. So for example, one of the projects that we're working on is to understand why the women who have the BRCA1 gene, one of them, tend to almost always develop breast cancer which is not fed by estrogen. As most of you know, breast cancers can be fed by estrogen. Those are called estrogen receptor positive, and some of them grow absolutely independently of estrogen. And interesting that the ones with the number 1 gene tend to form these estrogen-independent breast cancers, and the ones in the number 2 gene who inherit this BRCA2 gene almost always develop breast cancers which are fed by estrogen. Well, we think there are very important clues there. So we've been studying these cancers, we've been looking at them. We've also now, with the funding from BCRF, are going to be doing just what you've been hearing about from Dr. Perez. We're going to be looking at the genes in these cancers, not just how they look, but the genes that are turned on, the genes that are turned off, because we want to understand it. And if you could actually predict if a woman's going to develop one kind of breast cancer versus another, you could imagine that would also allow you better clues about prevention. So we're going to try to figure out how BRCA1 and 2 are helping to decide this fate of the breast cancers and whether they're fed by estrogen. So that's one of the big projects that we're working on with many of our collaborators in Boston.